Freedom Scientific, a Vispero brand.
So today we are going to be talking about COVID-19 funding and the impact for assistive technology procurement. So, where do you find the funding? What's available out there? How can it be used for assistive technology?
We'll be talking about 3 rounds of stimulus funding that have gone on, and in the next chart, we'll show the dates and the amounts and everything like that. But the CARES Act, Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act was the first stimulus package that came out. CRRSA, Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriation, was next. And the most recent one was ARP, the American Rescue Plan Act. And these have all come out within this window of this pandemic timeframe from, I think, March 2020 through today. And what we're focused in on today is we talked about there are other programs out there. There's programs out there that support independent living centers in our world. There's programs out there that support state agencies. We're not really going to talk about those today, but as part of your journey and exploration and looking at all the funding out there, if you're not well versed on it, we hope this sets you on the path. So the main funding sources that we'll be talking about today are ESSER, which is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, and then SEAs and LEAs, state education agencies and local education agencies. So the state education agency, like I'm from Massachusetts, Massachusetts Department of Ed. Local education agency, I'm from Franklin, Massachusetts. It's the Franklin, Massachusetts School District is the local education agency. So to just, as we get into these acronyms, so that you have a good foothold on those to begin with, we can drill down a little bit more and use the acronyms instead. So this is just a matrix that explains the authorizing legislation, funds available and awarded grants under each of those stimulus programs, the CARES Act, CRRSA, and the ARP program, and when they were signed into law. So in March of 2020, in December of 2020, and if I move my window here, I can see March 2021 was the most recent funding legislation being enacted, and looking at when you can utilize those funds. And I think, again, when you go to the ATIA presentation, you'll see some more specific information related to spend down dates, like the end of spend down that they've come up with. So I would defer to that presentation. But you have period of availability. You have basically March 2020 through September 30th, 2022. So there's still money available in that fund that can be accessed through September of this year. CRRSA, money available through September of next year, and then money available under ARP until 2024, and the spend down through 2025 going forward. And if you look at the dollars that have been, again, just put to K-12, it's pretty substantial. And I would say generational. And that's, again, why we're trying to amplify it. We all know that typically budgets aren't growing in special ed or in vocational rehabilitation in other areas traditionally where people are served. And this is a nice bump, if you will, where you can handle the emergencies in place right now and then plan for potential future issues or programs, initiatives that might have been on hold due to lack of funding. So CARES Act, $13.2 billion. ESSER 2, or the CRRSA Act, funding level was 54.3, and ARP, which is the ESSER 3 fund, $122 billion. So in total, going to K to 12, approximately $190 billion available for stimulus funding. And again, I'm emphasizing Not all of that is exclusively for what we're talking about today, but we'll point out, as you'll see in the next slide, where you can use this. So we've all heard about people needing laptops, people needing Wi-Fi, people needing clean air filtration systems in schools. It's all can be used for that. But when we get into the specifics of this industry, serving visually impaired students with disabilities, here's what we can do with these funds. Any activity authorized under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This is the foundational federal legislation that basically says free and appropriate education, regardless of, if you have a disability or not, and is the groundwork for, I think I've shared before, my daughter, profoundly deaf, 27 years old this month. I've gone through this process with her in finding resources, and IDEA was what helped get her into an IEP, what helped the discussion with resources and services and technologies that would help guide and augment and enhance her educational experience for somebody that's hearing impaired. So IDEA. And then as we look through, if we look through the legislation, we go to bullet item number 4 and highlight, purchasing educational technology, including hardware, software, and connectivity for students who are served in the local education agency that aids in regular and substantive development, students' classroom instruction, including low-income students and children with disabilities, which may include assistive technology or adaptive equipment. And again, further on down, noting children with disabilities, children with learning loss. So these are all the special needs students that are in our community of students with vision loss and other disabilities that have access to this funding, to these funding programs over the last 2 years. So again, we're amplifying for a reason. Money like this doesn't come around all that often. This industry, to any of those that are not on this call, is a secret. People don't know that special ed directors exist. People don't know that assistive technology exists. People don't know vocational services exist, by and large, until they need it. So we're trying to, again, amplify that there's funding out there and where you can go and get this information. So here's where we can go. So Mike, again, inspired from the ATIA presentation and their resource list, there's a couple of online sites where you can look at the United States and hover over a state and find out exactly what they've been allocated in terms of dollars in the elementary and secondary education relief fund, rounds 1, 2, and 3 corresponding to the different stimulus acts that have been enacted. And again, I can't speak to how accessible this particular site is. I think you can tab through down to the actual LEAs, but if you were to hover over the virtual map here, you can go to Kansas, Missouri, go over to Massachusetts again, Mike. We'll keep it with Massachusetts. So you can see that Massachusetts, through the different rounds of funding, 214 million, 814 million, and then $1.8 billion for a total allocation of $2.8 billion in those ESSER funds. So quite a bit of funding. And again, I think the last point I wanted to make, just in general, in talking about how that, this is sort of generational in terms of federal stimulus funding. If anybody remembers the Great Recession and the stimulus program enacted there called ARRA, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, and that was shovel-ready projects. Again, they had a K-12 allocation as well that was about $90 billion. So this is roughly twice as large than that program from, the 2009, 2010 level. Again, to just put it in context in terms of the scope of the funding. But again, you can go in here and you can see at a very high level what Massachusetts has been given. And if you click on the Massachusetts, the state, it will take you through each of the LEAs. And I think down. You can scroll down and I forget, they have a search here. If you do a Control F and go to Franklin, let's look at my town. And in this particular graphic, they're showing ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. They're not showing ESSER 1. But here's Franklin, Massachusetts. They got through ESSER 2 round, so $475,000 in additional funding. And then ESSER 3, $1,046,173. Again, emphasizing that, is this all allocated to special ed and to students with disabilities? No, but is it available for you to engage with your local community and find out what could be available for your own needs and for your students' IEPs and for loan closets that you're looking to develop, or for software and equipment refresh programs you're looking to implement. So it's a pretty powerful resource to take a look at and sort of give you a level set in your community, the extra money that's available.
Freedom Scientific, a Vispero brand. To stay up to date on upcoming webinars and training events, complete the sign-up form at freedomscientific.com/webinars. Thanks again for connecting with us.